guys, so first of all, happy St. Patrick's Day. I am wearing my green for St. Patrick's Day. So today I'm going to bring you a book and movie comparison of Ned Vizzini's It's Kind of a Funny Story. First of all, I read this book back in January, end of January-ish, and I really enjoyed it, and then I finally got around to watching the movie on Netflix this weekend past, so I thought it was a good time to finally film the review for it. So to start off, I'll do a quick summary, then I'll talk a bit about the book, and then a bit about the movie, and compare them and which one I preferred more. Yeah, so let's get started. So Craig Gilner is the main character of the story, and he is enrolled in a very illustrious public school that is based on business. He basically, to get into the school, you have to be really, really smart and pass a test to get in. And Craig is feeling a lot of pressure about this, and also about his best friend's girlfriend, who he's kind of been in love with for a while, and so he is contemplating suicide. And he does the, at least in my opinion, correct thing and calls the suicide hotline, and they suggest that he check himself into the hospital, which he does, which I think, as far as suicide books go for teens, this one really hits on what to do properly. Not that there's a way, like a proper way to deal with suicide, but I think it is the most beneficial to people who are actually contemplating suicide. It doesn't treat it lightly, it treats it as a serious illness. Yeah. Sadly, the author Ned Vizzini actually committed suicide, I want to say in December or January. Apparently he had battled with depression, and having known that going into the book, it makes it a little bit more sad and poignant that he's writing about depression. Yeah. So, but while Craig is in the hospital, he actually ends up in North 3, I think, which is actually the adult psychiatric, because the children's one is currently under renovation, so they stuck all the teens in with the adults. So you get to meet a lot of characters and explore a bunch of different facets of mental illness, and they treat it, like in the book, it is treated with a lot of respect. Nobody's looked down upon for having a mental illness. They're all in the hospital to get better and move on with their lives, which I think was really great and a really great way of dealing with mental illness. So you meet Jimmy, who's a schizophrenic, you meet Bobby, who he did a lot of drugs. Basically, you meet Noelle, who is a young teenage girl and actually becomes one of Craig's good friends, and you meet people who are transvestites, you meet people who are just depressed, drug addicts, all kinds of things. And it's really interesting how Craig deals with it, because Craig kind of becomes the way the reader sees through it. At first he's like, oh my god, why am I in with these people? I am not like them at all. I'm not a drug addict, I'm not crazy, I'm not schizophrenic, I just feel really depressed and anxious and kind of want to kill myself. Which is, as he comes to realize it, that mental illness covers a huge broad spectrum, and just because he's not like these people doesn't make him better than these people. And that's something I really enjoyed about the book, is that it didn't treat people with mental illness as a joke. It didn't treat them as less than healthy people. It's just, I think it's an excellent book that talks about mental illness and what to do if you're feeling suicidal or depressed. Certainly compared to some other books I've read about teen suicide, it definitely deals with it in a much healthier way than some of the other ones. So I thought that the book was fantastic. Sometimes it's a bit slow, but I mean, it is a fairly long book. It is 450 pages, give or take, but the font's pretty big, and it talks about, like, typical things teens go through. Smoking pot, pressures with their friends, feeling depressed. And I think that that's the part that, like, will help readers build empathy for people with mental disorders, because you're seeing through Craig, who, you know, is pretty much an everyman. Yeah, he's dealing with depression. Yeah, he's a little bit anxious and he stress vomits, but he's more or less normal. And through him, you get to meet all these other characters and discover that, yeah, they're also people and they also have issues, and it's not necessarily their fault and it doesn't make them less human. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the movie, which stars Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls, Emma Roberts from... oh, she was in American Horror Story Coven. That is her most recent work. I actually like her as an actress. She's Julia Roberts' niece. And Zach Galifianakis, who... The Hangover and various other things. I actually thought this was an excellent performance of Zach Galifianakis compared to The Hangover. He's much more toned down. It's much more... He actually seems like an actor in this rather than a bull in a china shop, which is what I normally get from his performances. The main character, Craig, I don't know who plays him, and it's a lot of unknown, I want to say. I mean, I could be totally wrong because I don't know a lot about movies and stuff, but those are the three people who I actually recognize. I thought the movie kept the heart of the story. It didn't quite explain why Noelle was in there, which it did in the book, which I thought was really interesting and dealt a lot with pressures of society on women, which was great in the book but was lacking in the movie. But you still kind of go through the journey of Craig realizing that the path he's on is not good for him and that people with mental disorders are still totally normal. You don't get as much interaction with the other... it's not inmates that I want to say, patients, there we go. With the other patients, he doesn't get to know them as well as he does in the book. But to be fair, with a running time of like an hour and a half, how much are you really going to get in? It really focuses on his relationship with Bobby, which I think was great, and his relationship with Noelle, and how the outside pressures get to him. I definitely recommend seeing the movie. It is not as good as the book. I actually made my mom watch it and she was like, I thought we were supposed to be watching a comedy, which I think the movie's hilarious, but she didn't, but she doesn't have a black sense of humor. But yeah, so I really recommend the movie and the book. Obviously I prefer the book over the movie just because it goes into so much more detail. But that's generally always the case with movies. There are very few movies that I prefer the movie to the book. Yeah, I actually can't... oh, no, I can think of one. Vampire Academy, I preferred the movie to the book. But yeah, so I thought it was a really great, all-around, well-done movie, really well-done book, and definitely something that I don't have a ton of experience with. Dealing with mental illness, dealing with suicide, it's something that is outside of my knowledge base, and so I really enjoyed it because it allowed me to see things in a different way and from a different perspective, and that's what I really enjoy about reading, is that you can gain empathy for other people. But yeah, so I will see you guys later. Bye!